By the looks of it, a lot of you here are students. So I'm very familiar with what you're feeling. You're very anxious, you're stressed, you're in that phase where you feel like every choice, every class, every extracurricular activity, every test, every tardy is going to determine if you're going to be successful and if you're going to be happy. And anything that comes in the way of that is a threat. I'm going to talk to you today about how we got to feel this stress and anxiety and why we really shouldn't. I'm going to tell you everything I wish someone had told me when I was in your place. We're going to start from when we're born. From the moment you're born and well into your adolescent years, you're forming your limbic system, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for your behavioral and emotional responses. You start to observe your teachers, your parents, anyone that looks like they know what they're doing, and you start to internalize what they're saying, and you make sense of, okay, this is how I survive. This is how I succeed. It's also the time where you develop your fight or flight response. And also the time where you inherit the checklist. If you follow this checklist by the time that it says that you should, and in the way that it's preferred, then by the end of the checklist, you will be happy, you will be successful, and most importantly, you will be validated by society. This checklist goes something along the lines of you go to school, you're well behaved, you get good grades, so that you graduate and you go to a really good university, you pick your major, and it has to be something that will make your parents proud, so you can have a job, then you get married, and you have children, and then you will be happy, successful, and validated. What happens with this checklist is that it doesn't always go that simply. And when it doesn't go that simply, you start to think that there's something wrong with you. I had my first experience with change at a very young age. I was 13 years old, and like that, my world turned upside down. I'm the youngest of 4. I had a very loving home. I had parents that were vibrant and healthy and involved and supportive, picture perfect, as they say. And one day, that all changed. No fault to anyone, it's just the change that comes with life. In a week, my father was very ill. My parents packed up and they moved to America. Here are the changes that I was way too emotionally immature to grasp the magnitude of what was actually happening. First of all, and the toughest change, is realizing your parents are not superheroes. They're humans. They're not immortal. And that's a big change, especially for someone at a young age. The second and third and fourth change were that I didn't live at home anymore. My dynamic with my siblings wasn't the same anymore. I didn't have the same relationship with my parents anymore. Life, why are you doing this to me? Now I can't focus on my checklist. So much is happening. It's not supposed to be this way. This triggered my fight response. So I decided I'm not going to pay attention to any of this. This is happening over here, and my checklist is right over there, and no one is going to get in my way. So I was stubborn with life. I ignored everything. I ignored myself, and I was just going to go and check my boxes, and then everything's going to go back to normal, and everything's going to be okay. When I did that, I created a very difficult life for myself. My perspective of what was going on limited me greatly because I was being stubborn and fighting a fight that wasn't here to bring me down. Things in life don't happen to you. They happen for you. But if we're not too focused on how things should be and when it should happen and how it should happen, we can actually take a minute and realize it's going to be okay. Life is living, and living is a verb. It's not a bunch of boxes that you check. I went all through high school checking my boxes, and I'm not paying attention to my pain. I'm not paying attention to all that's happening in my life. I'm not paying attention that my father is ill. I'm just going. So quickly, nowhere. But I'm going, because apparently everyone around me was going too. In the 11th grade, I was waiting for my father to get better and everything to go back as it should be. And in fact, he did, and it was a great blessing. 2 weeks later, we find out that my mother has cancer. And it was time to fight again. And I continued. All the way until I went to university like I wanted, I majored in the major that I wanted, I had a paralegal certificate, and I was working at one of the top-tier law firms. And here's what happens when you ignore what's going on. You can't go through your life not inviting yourself to the conversation because it will catch up to you. And that's exactly what happened. I ignored myself so much, focused on what life should be and how it's supposed to happen, that I left myself out of the conversation. So I was forced to face all those demons that I ignored. When you get to a point where you realize that you've spent most of your life fighting and surviving, you're faced with a decision. Am I going to spend the rest of my life just dodging bullets of life and the changes that come that are out of my control? Am I going to spend my life not giving space for myself on the table of conversation? And it's easy to get caught up in that. But you're lucky because you get to hear about these things at a younger age and hold yourself accountable before it's too late. Actually, and ironically, the only place that I was starting to learn about this in a proper, fruitful way were through TEDx conversations on YouTube. And from TEDx on YouTube, I discovered the world of podcasting. I've been to therapy, I've been to sound healing, homeopathy, all the different healing mechanisms. But there's nothing quite like a good conversation, and an honest one. I started to watch all these TEDx videos, and I learned that it really is a choice. I choose to thrive. I don't want to survive anymore, which meant that life and I had to have a little dance. I'm going to take a step forward, and I'm going to listen. I'm going to reflect. I'm going to redirect. When I realized the power of conversation, I completely shifted my career because I saw the impact from just talking with each other. When you're going through something, and all of you together, just knowing someone else is going through the same thing, you're like, okay, مش أنا بس. It's okay. The conversation goes from انا غبيه قوي، انا ليه بعمل كده؟ ليه انا الوحيده اللي مش عارفه عايزه اعمل ايه؟ ليه انا اللي مش عايزه اخش IB؟ طب ليه انا اللي بسقط؟ to لا it's okay. It's okay. Now what? The process forward. We're very lucky as humans that we have a skill that isn't available to anyone else in the living species. We have the power of our words. Words are spells. What you say has a profound impact on people that hear it and yourself. When you start to have conversations and that are honest, you start to notice this. With your words, you can bring someone up and you can break them down. With your words, you can motivate or you can drain. Words are strong. All the way from the start of humanity, when there were hunter-gatherers, they would go about their days and then they would meet in the middle or at the end of their days, and they would sit around and they would talk and they would share knowledge and experiences, opinions, and stories. Today, we're doing the same thing. We're gathered around. Each of us is going to come up and share their experience, their opinions, their knowledge. And I guarantee you're all going to leave today feeling a little more recharged and refreshed. That is the power of conversation. Where did we lose that? We lost that when everyone started to pretend and brought the crap to the table. When everyone is suffering in the corner and then meeting in the middle like everything's fine. How are you? I'm good, I'm fine, what's up, not much. This has become the quality and the standard of our conversations with each other. So consequently, it becomes the conversation you have with yourself. The simplest things you can't even decide. هناكل النهارده. Should I post this picture or that picture? I don't know, what should we order? These very simple choices, which you donate to other people and you just give them away, they actually start to affect the bigger choices in your life that you have to take. Here's what I decided to do. I decided to start my podcast, which is Cut the Crap, because that's exactly what I want people to do. It's not something that you do once, it's something that you do throughout your life. You hold yourself accountable and you bring yourself to the table. Who's influencing my thoughts? Because everything you're thinking, it's not you. It's what you've heard your teachers say to you, your parents say to you, people judging other people, so you internalize that really toxic conversation. First of all, you start to cut the nasty people out with limiting beliefs, even if they're your own family. If you hear them saying things to you that are limiting you and they're pessimistic, just don't listen. You cut yourself out of situations that drain you. If you go somewhere and you're not happy, don't go. مش هتتحسبوا غياب عادي. Don't go. If you stand around and put yourself in these situations just to prove something, you're not going to prove anything, except that you're not listening to yourself. So you start to have this conversation. You start to learn how to speak to yourself when you expose yourself to proper conversations. So even the social media and the shows that you watch and the YouTube videos that you watch, curate them to help you have good conversations. Because what you hear, you start to think. And what you think becomes what you believe. And what you believe become your choices. And your choices become your habits. And your habits creates your life. So that's the reverse engineering of how we get here. It's really important to know that what you say becomes what you are and what you have. I don't like the word change because it has a very negative connotation. It kind of insinuates that there's a disconnect between what was, what is, and what will be. And I offer you a replacement. Evolve. Your relationships don't change, they evolve. You don't change, you evolve. Life doesn't change, it evolves. And evolution recognizes the truth that we are living beings and we will continue to progress until we're not here anymore. Stop searching for the answers. Quick, quick, quick. You want to be satisfied quickly. You want to get things done quickly. You want to succeed quickly. You want to know what you're going to be quickly. Honestly, none of you know what you're going to be. Even if you pick a major, I thought I was going to be a lawyer. 7 years later, I'm a podcaster. 7 years ahead, I don't know what I'm going to be. But I focused on myself, and I focused on building skills and acquiring equations so that when I am faced with something new, maybe I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll figure it out. Maybe I don't know the answer, but I'll figure it out. If you're too busy looking for the answer, the right one, you're not going to find it. We are creatures who crave progress. We don't crave answers. Just the process of feeling like I'm working towards something and I'm enjoying each process is what keeps you going and motivates you. Hard work is great. Miserable work is wrong. If you're doing something and it's making you miserable at the cost that one day you're going to be happy and one day you're going to be this and that, this is a trap, I'm sorry to say. Today, here and now, is when you make that conscious decision to start having the right conversations with other people, an honest one, and with yourself. Forever, we will be a work in progress. Don't look left or right. Focus on yourself, the conversations that you're having, and the power that has to change the course of how you perceive the life you're living. And when you do that, I promise you, you're going to crave the process a lot more than the answers. And that all starts by changing the conversation. Thank you.